Not sure if I will actually publish this video, but hey, I'm recording this. In this video, I want to be completely vulnerable with you. This is going to be one of my most vulnerable videos. I want to share with you my journey, my transformation from struggling with a really bad eating disorder as a high schooler to achieving success, being interviewed by Forbes, receiving Distinguished Alumni Award from my graduate school. How did I manage the transformation? That is what we're going to discuss in this video. And I want to share with you, the answer is not what you are thinking about. And so I will share my solution, my framework with you so that in case you have a high schooler or college student or recent college graduate who has so much potential, but they are feeling a little bit stuck in life, being troubled by a lack of motivation, procrastination, self-doubt, or even unhealthy relationship to their digital media devices. If that is what you are interested in learning about, in this video, I will share with you my entire framework. I will share with you my secret. I know this framework works because look at my life. You are going to see pictures and look at the hundreds of students that I have the great honor to coach. So if you want to learn more about this, my secret, my framework, please keep watching. Welcome back to another training on my channel. So the struggle, the success, and the secret, 3 parts for today's training. So let's begin with the struggle. And this is hard to discuss, but okay, let's go. Give me some love in the comments. So here, this is a picture of me when I was a high schooler student. And I don't know if you can tell from this picture, I was pretty thin. And this was me freshman high school. Look at this. Oh my gosh, it's hard to look at this. So this was a freshman of me was a high schooler. And as I continued on my high schooling journey, I got thinner and thinner. I eventually just stopped taking pictures. True story. So this was me. I attended a pretty high achieving school. And during my entire high school journey, I struggled with this really bad eating disorder. And this was definitely a very, very low point in my life. And so at this time, I really hated school. I hated my life. And I still remember to this day. So in my room, there's a big wall. So on that wall, I actually used a pencil. I carved out the word hate. That tells you how much I hated my life. Like, I wish I took a picture of that. I was just feeling so miserable. And I struggled really hard with several courses. I was like I am definitely still an arts and humanities kid. I love interacting with children, with students. I love that social interaction. But ironically, I was in the STEM major, and I struggled a lot with math, physics, and chemistry. If you haven't watched my video, you should definitely check out this video. And I mentioned one of the lessons that I didn't learn from school, which is that if your kid is really good at something, you should really focus on what your kid is really good at. But I made the mistake when I was a student. I was really good at arts and humanities, but I kind of just ignored that. I spent my entire high school journey very stressed out about STEM, things that I was not good at, are like physics, chemistry. My parents spent so much money investing in private tutors, classes, prep schools to really help me improve my chemistry. I still remember when I was a high schooler, and there was a chemistry teacher who was really good, and he has private tutoring sessions at his house. And I literally had to ride my bicycle from my house to this teacher's home for like an hour, if not longer, one way to take this very, very expensive. Oh, this was many years ago, like 3 decades ago. It was like $100 an hour, if not more expensive, very expensive to learn chemistry, which I actually hated. And so after investing so much time, energy, and effort, I was like, I'm not seeing any improvement in my grades. I had no confidence in myself. I think anyone would be in that situation after you spend so much time, energy, effort, and money. And I didn't come from a super wealthy family. I was doubting myself. I was questioning myself every single day, even though there were courses like Chinese language, English literature. There were courses that I was naturally good at. I wasn't even thinking about them. And I was really looking at the courses that I was not good at. So as a result, I have completely lost my confidence. And I also didn't have the best relationship with my parents. They were really supportive of me, and I'm really, really thankful. And I have no doubt that my parents really, really love me, but I don't think they know how to love me and support me in a way that is aligned with how I want to be supported. And so I also have that tension with my parents and tension with myself, this tension with school, because I attended this really high achieving school. Everybody was so competitive. I still remember we literally lied to each other regarding how hard we study on something. So this is a common conversation in the study hallway. If you ask a person, hey, did you study? Almost all of us would lie to each other. It sounds so crazy now when I think about it, but back then it was so normal. Like, yeah, of course I didn't study. I watched the soccer, I did this, that, and that, but we were all studying secretly so that our competitors do not catch up. That is how competitive, how sick we have all become in that environment. And so I also, as I was struggling with all of those courses, not because I wasn't working hard, I was working pretty hard. Could I be working harder? Probably, but I was working pretty hard. And so I was really struggling with that. And I also had no idea what I wanted to do in life. I wasn't sure why I was learning all those like chemistry, physics courses. I couldn't see any connection between what is actually happening inside the classroom versus what I want to do for my life. It was like really, really like a dark hole, like regarding my future. And so how did it end up having this eating disorder was because in moments like those entire high school period, I felt the only thing I had some control over was my food, like how much I wanted to eat, what I wanted to eat, or how little I wanted to eat. And I decided to just kind of stop eating. And as a result, for 4 years, high school, I just lost my period for quite a few years, actually the entire high school. And my parents, of course, got really, really worried. So many hospital visits, like drawing my blood. Everybody thought there was something wrong with me. I was already struggling with no confidence in myself. I was already struggling with all of those courses. And then I was like, what's wrong with me? I got thinner and thinner. And all the doctors visit, all of that. It was life was miserable. Okay. My life felt so miserable. I wasn't even thinking about going to college. I was just very confused about my life. So I don't know if you can relate, but this is 100% true story. This was me high school many, many years ago. And long story short, I want to share with you because we're talking about struggles. Trust me, there's a happy ending. So this is definitely the lowest point in my life. The second lowest point in my life is here. And I am not an alcoholic. I don't even drink. I hated drinking. But this was a point in my life. This is after I already became a college professor. So I grew up in China and I came to America after my undergraduate from China. So I came here, I got my master's degree, I got my PhD. So this picture, actually my husband took this. I was already a college professor. As you can see from here, I have achieved incredible success, which you are going to learn in a second, as a college professor. I got so many awards and dozens of publications, have a really good marriage. And at the time, I have two lovely boys. Now I have three. So you can see in the background, there's one. And so this particular here's the context. And one of my coworkers or friend, we were pretty close. And then I don't know what happened. And the relationship didn't work out. And she started to say something online that's just not good. It was just lots of drama. And I didn't know how to handle that situation because she's someone I really look up to as a role model. She was ahead of me in my field for a few years. I was like, wow, she's such an incredible role model. I really wanted to become like her. I look up to her. And then she kind of stopped talking to me, just completely blocks me on all social media channels. I was so confused. I didn't know why. I thought I did something wrong. I apologized to her. It's like nothing happened. It was really, really bad. I got pretty depressed. And this was after me crying the whole night. That's after I discovered this person blocked me on all social media channels. I was like, what happened? And at the time, I had no idea what happened. And I cried for almost the entire night. So the next day in the morning, I woke up. I was like, give me the wine bottle. I started like the picture here. And my husband, he was like, what's going on? Because I don't even drink. So I'm really thankful that he documented this journey because it really reminded me how far I have come in my life. So here and this instance with this friend or coworker, and plus I was not feeling the best at my job, even though I really love my students. My students really love me. However, there was part of me just felt there was more to life than what I was doing. I felt my life was so repetitive. I felt I could almost predict how my life as a college professor was going to unfold, teaching similar courses, doing similar things, doing similar research, attending similar conferences. I got so bored with my life that I was like, okay, I could see how I die. And to me, that's not the life I want. I want my life to have more adventures, excitement, uncertainty, and unpredictability. So I was not happy. And then the situation with the friend kind of escalated everything. And this is a picture. And I didn't feel alive. I still remember at the time. So this was in academia after you got tenure and promotion, which I did. So you have 1 year sabbatical. This was during my 1 year sabbatical. I started to really think about the purpose of my life, started to question first principle thinking, to question everything. Do I really want to be a college professor? Is this my life or somebody else's life or construction for me? I really started to question everything. And I still remember I listened to a podcast episode, and I think it was Entrepreneur on Fire. That was the podcast I listened to a lot when I was on sabbatical. So in that podcast, the host, he interviewed so many very successful entrepreneurs, and almost every single person on the podcast, they mentioned how much they love their life. What? I couldn't comprehend. I'm not even making this up. I'm like, they love their life. They love their job. To me, that was such a foreign concept because how much I was struggling at my job, not because I don't love my students, not because I wasn't doing a good job. I was checking all the boxes. I was still so miserable, so unhappy. And for me, Friday was my happiest day because I know there is the weekend. And then when Sunday comes, I just feel so not happy because I know Monday I have to go back to work. And this pattern just lasted for quite a few years. And so I listened to that, those people, how much they love their life. Everyone was so fired up, so excited about what was to come. I was like, I want that life. I want that life. Even though I had no idea how to have a life like that, I was doing this. But at the time, there was like a spark inside me. I was like, that was pretty exciting. I wanted that life. Okay. And I will share with you the incredible life that I have now. But those were the two darkest points in my life. So this is the struggling chapter. Now, and of course, I have a lot more struggles, but those are the two kind of major milestone moments in my entire life. Each of those moments led to a major transformation and transition in terms of my identity, in terms of my future pursuit. Okay, so I'm going to close this and I'm going to show you my life now. what happened after I close that chapter and what happened after I close this chapter, and I will share with you my solution. Okay. So now let's take a look at my life now. I already shared with you a little bit. And my name is Dr. I, 20 years in education. I got my master from Syracuse. I got my PhD from the University of Maryland. At this point in my career, I have already served hundreds of young people. I love them very much. So you can see here are some pictures. And I still listen to me sharing with you about my life, still keeping in mind like that drinking picture, how miserable I was. Like that and this happens at the same time. Okay. It's almost like a double life. And that's why I have such a passion. My heart is on serving young people because I know how miserable that double life was. And I don't want any young person to achieve success and end up being so miserable. I want them to have that alignment. My life was not aligned. And so me, pictures, professor, and this is social media shout out from one of my undergraduate students. Here is another social media shout out. I really, really love my students. Thank you card, Twitter shout out. I took them to many events, attended so many commencement, graduation that I don't even remember over the last 10 decades plus. And we had guest speakers, me being silly with my students. And so the highlight of my entire professor career is here. A group of undergraduate students organized a surprise baby shower for me. And that day, I still remember as if it were yesterday. I was about to walk into the classroom to teach a class, and then I heard congratulations. And I thought, for me? And then it turned out it is for me. And so those students, they, as you can see, congratulations, Bubble, that is the nickname for my second baby. This is my oldest. He's already 14. So this was many years ago. And they organized a baby shower for my second baby. And they, and they made my favorite food. And they spent so much money out of their own pockets and baby shower gift, everything, and the picture frame that I still have today. So lots of special, and all of my students, they are doing really well in life, very successful, pursuing their dreams and goals. And I received Advisor of the Year award. Like now, even as I'm sharing the story with you, how can someone be so miserable when they see it happening, right? Like, how can someone be so miserable when she seems to have such an incredible career? And Advisor of the Year award, really honored to receive that. And this is a gift from one of my undergraduate students that I still have it on my shelf. And I can share with you, in fact, here. You can see that. So this is this one I really cherish. She said that a truly great mentor is hard to find, difficult to pass with, and impossible to forget. Thank you for inspiring me. And I'm proud to say that I have inspired hundreds of young people to pursue their dreams, to reach their goals, and to become the best version of who they are, and to make a positive contribution to our society. I'm really honored. Again, how can someone be miserable when all of this is happening? Lots of academic publications and awards recognition. So this was kind of the highlight of my life as a college professor. So after I closed that chapter and I started my own coaching business as a goal achievement coach for young people, high schoolers, college students, and recent college graduates. And my coaching program is called Classroom Without Walls, where I believe the best education actually happens outside the classroom. When I think about my life, I got the highest degree possible, but my life was not where I wanted my life to be because it's not the fault of the school. I don't want to blame them. The school is designed to do what the school is designed to do. There is just so much about life that is not taught in the classroom. And I really want to close that gap. I really want to fill in the gap for young people so that by the time they graduate from high school, from college, they are ready for life. They're ready for the work ahead of them. So that's me. And this is the mug that I have. And here is our slogan: the best education happens outside the classroom. And I actually have a planner. So that's me and my 3 boys. So this is the baby in the baby shower. Back then he was 2 or 3 years old. Now he's 14. The planner is called the Disruptors Planner. I want to send a message to young people. It is time to disrupt your old identity, to have some disruptions in your life, to become the best version of who you are. So every student joins my coaching program will receive a copy of the planner and this incredible mug. And my work has been featured in Forbes, and that's me. And so great honor. And I was also interviewed by Inside Higher Education. That's me, Dr. I. And I also collaborate with a number of incredible brands such as Adobe. This is me visiting their office in Japan, Tokyo. I actually did a talk there, as you can see, 2019. That was a few years ago. And so I have been working with Adobe for quite a few years. And during the pandemic year, they reached out to me and I did the opening keynote for the annual Adobe Education Summit to hundreds of incredible educators from all over the globe. That's me presenting at Adobe's New York City office to an incredible group of educators. That's me sharing a part of my curriculum. That's me again. And online collaborations with Adobe, talking about jobs of the future. So I'm really passionate about how do we close the gap so nobody has to go through what I went through, being so miserable, and achieve success and then discover that success is not what I wanted. So what I do now, this is the right career path for me. No more crying on Friday and no more crying on Sunday evening and be happy only on Friday. My life, if you ask me now, I can touch my heart and tell you I'm happy every day from Monday to Sunday, every day. Not to say that my life has no challenges. Even the challenges are becoming so much more meaningful and I'm rolling up my sleeves. Come on, let's figure this out. And this is the state that I want every single student who is coached by me to achieve, not just success at the cost of their mental health, happiness, but meaningful success that aligned goal achievement. Anyway, I also have the great honor to deliver a TEDx talk, which is actually featured on the main TED platform. Here, I shared the missing links in education, self-discovery, emotional regulation, neuroplasticity. All of those are the things that I discuss in my coaching program. So it was really nice to share my message, share my philosophy, and share my perspective on education on a very big stage. Very, very thankful. I have also been collaborating with LinkedIn. I'm a recognized education thought leader on the platform. This was me attending one of their in-person events. I was able to connect with so many incredible thought leaders, content creators on LinkedIn. It was so fun. And here is a gift box from LinkedIn, Dr. I. I joined one of their programs for an incredible group of thought leaders and content creators. So here, that was me receiving a shout out from LinkedIn to acknowledge my ability to share impactful, useful, and meaningful content. It was such a great surprise. I also had the great honor to be actually interviewed by Katie Couric. That's me. I actually just did a dental surgery. That's why my face is looks bigger than me right now. And I really enjoyed this interview with Katie Couric because I really respect her. And that was me collaborating with Katie Couric and Glamour Magazine. I was able to share my own coaching curriculum, my perspective on education. How can we bridge the gap between classroom learning and real life implementation and application? And so here, this former college professor wants to shake up education in a major way. And the series is actually called Daring to Disrupt. I'm featured as an education disruptor, which is so perfect with my the planner, which is actually the Disruptors Planner. So the planner came first and the Katie Couric interview came second. So that was a really nice coincidence for the Disruptor series. And I also, here's me contributing to a social media certification by HubSpot, incredible social media digital marketing company. I became a paid global keynote speaker. This is actually me in South Korea. And traveled to quite a few different countries, sharing my perspective, my message on education, and sharing a part of my coaching curriculum. This is me just recently, the great honor to give a talk at an elite school in the Washington, D.C. area. About 3 years ago, I received a Distinguished Alumni Award from my undergraduate, University of Colorado at Denver. It was such a surprise. And then the most recent one is this one. This was a few months ago. I got my PhD from University of Maryland, where I received another alumni award. What is really special about this is that I was able to bring my children and my husband who took the picture. It was just like so sweet. Okay, so let's talk about this. So how did I manage to change my life from here? Absolutely hated school, absolutely hating my life. I was just so lost. I was just so miserable. I was definitely a little bit suicidal. I was literally questioning the purpose of my life. I couldn't see any hope. I couldn't see any future. People really lose that motivation when you see no hope in the future. And so how did I manage to transform my life as a first generation immigrant from here to everything I just shared with you? And here is my secret. This is the solution. The solution is clarity. If someone asks me, what's your secret to transform your life from being so miserable to where you are today, becoming a recognized a thought leader? Now, people have to wait in line to work with me, and because we're good, and I have become very selective with people I want to work with and speaking all of that. So how did I make the transition happen? So the answer is clarity, and I'm going to share with you two frameworks that I use in my coaching program to help my students to have similar transformation. And so here, this is the journey that I bring my students with me when they join my coaching program. The horizontal line is identity, how they see who they are. Excuse me. I do lots of deep work with my students. And so my coaching program is not just like, hey, a $20 course, go watch the course and your life will be transformed. Nothing like that. And it is a very deep, scientific, research-based, holistic process to really transform your kid from the inside out so that they actually have that intrinsic motivation and become the true leader that they are meant to be. And so at the very bottom of this triangle, this is passive and struggling. So that is the identity. They are really passive in life. They are struggling in life. And then the vertical line is their level of clarity. So in my coaching program, I discuss two levels of clarity: internal clarity, aka self-awareness; external clarity, what you want to do, goals, future vision, who do you want to become after high school, after college, like as a young professional. And so that is the vertical line. So identity transformation from passive, the next level is reactive, but stabilizing. You are reacting to whatever. Hey, your teacher asks you to do something, your coach asks you to do something, you are reacting, you are doing it, your life is stable. And then the higher level, so as you go up on this triangle, your identity or your kid, their identity is upgrading. As they upgrade their identity, the level of clarity is, and then reactive, and the third level is active. Okay, I'm no longer reactive, I'm actually being active regarding what is happening. I'm actually having some success. Then the next level is being proactive. You don't even have to tell me what I need to do. I'm taking initiative. If your kid can achieve this level, they are already an incredible leader. But in my coaching program, I bring the young people to another high level. That's why we have students who stay inside our coaching program for a long time as they upgrade their identity from being reactive to active to proactive. And the highest level is generative and transforming. This is that you are actually generating a new identity. You are generating, that's what I'm doing. I'm creating a new curriculum. I'm creating something new. I'm creating keynote here. I become a generator. I'm generative and transforming, and the identity continues to upgrade. At this level, you are no longer driven by how much money you're going to make, but you are driven by this is who you are. This is your calling in life. This is your purpose. And I'm proud to say that this is where I am. Nobody is pressuring me. Hey, Dr. I, you need to do those YouTube video. You need to do this and that. Everything I do is because I have this calling, and what I do is very much aligned with my calling. And I will say work is effortless. I still have challenges in life. However, even the challenges are becoming so much more meaningful. I am determined to figure out a solution for every single challenge in my life. Life is so much more fulfilling, so much more fun. I'm taking ownership of my life. And this is the highest level. At this level, you're very clear on who you are. You're really very clear about your vision every day. The planner I share with you, the Disruptors Planner, one page. So every day I use that planner to do journaling. I'm connected to my goals and purpose and vision on a daily basis using the planner. So yeah, this is where I am. And this is my goal for every single person doing my coaching program to get to this level. So what is the solution? What you think about, like, right? So if you're, hey, Doctor, this sounds great. Again, how can this model explain your transformation from eating disorder to success? The answer is clarity. I will say for many of your kids, they do not have a motivation challenge. They do not have a procrastination challenge. They do not have a self-doubt challenge. The real challenge your kid has is a lack of clarity. Meaning they don't know who they are, meaning they don't know what they want to do in life. This is exactly where I was when I was here. When I was a high schooler, I had no idea. I'm like, why I need to learn chemistry? I had zero interest in becoming an engineer. Like absolutely zero interest. What do I want to become? I have no idea because nobody ever invested in my strength. I was mostly investing in my weaknesses. I had no idea. Except there was only one subject in my entire high school career, and that was English literature. I just loved it so much because at the time I was still in China and I had a very strong vision that I wanted to study abroad. My parents couldn't really afford it. So the only way for me to study abroad is through scholarship. And I happened to discover through my friends that if you study abroad in America, which is where I'm based in right now, you will be given scholarship. I never heard of that as a kid in China. I don't know. China, they probably have scholarships now. I have no idea. But when I was a kid, there was no scholarship. This was 40 plus years ago. Okay. So I had no idea. Like, what scholarship? So to me, that was very clear. Okay. I wanted to study abroad. I was very much tired of Chinese education system. And I wanted to study abroad. And the only way for me to study abroad was to earn scholarship. And the only way for me to earn scholarship was to become really good at English, at least English literature. There's like so many exams that I have to pass in order to earn that scholarship. So that was the only course I was not struggling. Why? Because there's that sense of clarity. For everything else in my life was a struggle. And now I'm looking back, I'm so thankful to the English class, the literature class, because without that clarity that I wanted to study abroad, without that, all of those English classes, I probably wouldn't be able to survive this whole thing without killing myself. Because everything else was struggle. Because for everything else I was doing, there was no sense of clarity. There was no sense of purpose. So the same thing, if your kid is struggling with whatever, they're procrastinating, even though they have so much potential, they're so smart. Like that's the students I work with capable, smart kids. But they're not doing what they're supposed to do in order to truly unleash their potential. They're just coasting, they're procrastinating. And I will tell you, for most of your kids, the real reason that they are procrastinating is that they haven't discovered their clarity. They haven't discovered a reason why they need to go all in, why they need to lock in. And that clarity is exactly what I help every single young person. And in fact, this is my entire coaching framework. I call this the clarity advantage method. Again, I said earlier, your kid does not have a motivation challenge. Your kid does not have a self-doubt challenge. The real challenge your kid has is the lack of clarity. Just like my story, and I see this in the students. Even though a student join my coaching program, they are procrastinating every single day. As soon as I help them gain that clarity, they become a complete different person, just like me. And even this the picture here, that's like me. The only reason I wasn't struggling in my English literature class was because of this 100% clarity. I wanted to study abroad and I need to do really well in all of my English exams so that I can get a scholarship. If I don't get a scholarship, I couldn't study abroad. I wouldn't be able to come here. And I got a full scholarship at Syracuse and at the University of Maryland. That's how I was able to make it. Even this picture here. So I was so miserable looking back. This was so clear to me because what I didn't even after this. Okay, this is why I love my coaching program so much, because in my coaching program, you will see the very first. So in every single student goes through 5 phases in my coaching program. The very first one is understanding who you are. This internal identity clarity. This part, school doesn't give it to your kid. School doesn't really give your kid a sense of identity, who they are, what they really want to do. School teaches your kid tons of information, but to really discover who they are, this is an inside out approach. School, traditional education is outside in. Take those classes. Here's the curriculum. Here's the exam. Here are all the clubs. Everything's throwing at your kid. It is an outside in approach. But in order for your kid to really discover who they are, gain that clarity, it has to be inside out coach. Look at me. Even after my PhD and being a college professor for so many years, how did I end up there? Was because I was confused. I was 35 years old. I was confused about who I was, what I wanted to do in life, aka my mid-age crisis. I really start to question, is this my life? Or this is a life that was constructed for me by my parents, by my professors, by social expectations? The answer is yes. Yes to all of that. It was not my life. But then I was confused. Who are you? I'm like, I don't know what I wanted. I was smart. I read lots of books. But all of those books didn't really help me discover who I was, because that true self-discovery must happen in real life. It is an inside-out approach. That's why I was miserable. That's why there are people who are college professors. They're really happy because what they do is really aligned with who they are. Being a teacher is not aligned with who I am. Therefore, even though I have incredible students, even like remember the baby shower story, even though I have achieved incredible success, it was not aligned with who I am. When your life is misaligned with who you really are authentically, you are going to be miserable. And that's why in my coaching program, I have coached young people. They want to pursue A, but their parents want them to pursue B. The parents asked me to push their kid to pursue option B. I couldn't do it because that is against my professionalism, my ethical standard as a good coach. Because I know if I push the kid to do what the parents want the kid to do, the kid will achieve success because I know how to push the kid. Will the kid be happy? No. Definitely not happy long-term speaking. Look at me. I don't want that for any kid. And this is what I call in my coaching program aligned success, aligned goal achievement. What's the alignment? The alignment is who you are internally and what you are doing externally. And so many of the students I coach, when they choose a major, they choose a major based on popularity, based on school ranking. To me, those decisions are going to lead to a very miserable life, unfortunately. That's almost kind of how I decided. Remember I shared with you, I was an arts and humanity kid, but I accidentally decided to be in STEM, science, technology, all of that. It was very much against my strength. It was like every day I was fighting with myself regarding why I was so bad at those things. So there was no aligned achievement. There was no aligned achievement. There was lots of misalignment, which leads to misery. Okay. And so you could see that that's why in my coaching program, I generally think every young person needs to go through a program like mine to understand who they are. That is the foundation, which gives birth to the second clarity. Okay, now you understand who you are. What do you want to do in life? Right? I decided to be in STEM because it is a really popular major, even though it is against who I am. Terrible mistake. So the best way is that you are using who you are, this foundation, to help you decide who are you, that future clarity. And then once we take care of the clarity, it is so much easier to reclaim elevation, reclaim confidence when you have that clarity. For many of your children, you are pushing your kids so hard, but they don't even have that clarity. Like, why I need to work so hard for this class? I don't understand. Why? You can push them only a little bit, but everything in order to have that long-term success, hours of hard work, right? So if your kid doesn't really have that clarity, it's very hard to keep pushing. So internal clarity, external clarity, and then I have an entire system to teach young people how to build their confidence, their growth mindset, resilience. And then another phase, this is where I help a young person work on their motivation and learn to take consistent action. And the last one is the success and how to achieve that aligned. As you can see from here, success aligned. So here, success aligned without stress or doubt. So this is the ideal state. This is where I am now. And I myself cannot went through this own journey. I was very passive, reactive, active, proactive. Now I'm generative. This is the journey that I went through myself to achieve the incredible success. And this is the journey also I went through myself. That's kind of how I developed the curriculum from my own research, from my own lived experience. And this is what my students is going to go through inside my coaching program. So the power of clarity, I just want to share a few additional points and then we're going to wrap this up. And this is a Bible verse that I really love. Where there's no vision, the people perish. Again, as I said earlier, your kid does not have a motivation crisis. The real crisis or confidence crisis, the real crisis that your kid is having right now is a lack of clarity. If someone can really help them gain that clarity, they will become truly unstoppable. Not to say that they will not have challenges. They will still have challenges in life. However, they are willing to stay with challenges longer. In fact, there is a theory on this, which is called boring but important. So what is the boring and but important? So what they did is that they, as you can see from the fourth sentence here, many learning tasks feel uninteresting and tedious to learners. So imagine, right? Learning success is tedious. You have to do the same thing over and over again. And if your kid doesn't really have that clarity, they don't understand why they need to do this. I coach quite a few athletes in my coaching program. I will tell you, they do the same physical training every single day, including my oldest son, who is a fencer. He does the same physical training every single day. It is very, very, very boring and tedious. However, he keeps going because he has a clear goal that I help him gain that clarity regarding what do you want to do as a fencer. This is the question I ask every single student in my coaching program. What do you want to get out of this? It is okay if the answer is just having fun. Or you are actually using this to get a scholarship, to get into a good college, to start a business, to do whatever you want to do. That vision is so important. Without that vision, your kid perish. How do they perish? Procrastination, self-doubt. They literally think him or herself out of every decision that is outside their comfort zone. So in the study, they showed that students who have a stronger sense of purpose, they actually persisted longer on a boring task. I can so relate to this. As I told you so many times, my life still has challenges, actually bigger challenges than the challenges that I used to handle as a college professor. However, I feel so much more alive and I'm willing to stay with my challenges longer, not because those challenges are easier, the same. The only reason is that I have a sense of purpose. Why am I doing this? Why am I recording this YouTube video? Why am I keep learning? Because I want to serve millions of young people. I want to become that go-to coach for students who have big goals and dreams, but they are struggling. They are a little bit stuck to achieve their goals and dreams. They are a little bit stuck to unleash their full potential. That was me. I have so much potential when I was a kid, but nobody was there to help me unlock that. I was feeling so bad, so stupid my entire high school year. Right? So this is actually one of my coaching slides. Yeah. And the last one I want to share with you, this is one of my favorite books, The 12-Week Year. So I revisit this book every other year almost. So in this book is about productivity. And there's a whole chapter talking about the importance of vision. And I want to read this to you so you can see here. You will need a vision of the future that is bigger than the present. You must find a vision with which you are emotionally connected. Now pay attention here, right? Your kid is emotionally connected, not you, the parent. Must be your kid. That's why when I have parents who want me to help their kid to do what the parents want the kid to do, I say no to those parents. Like, stay away from me. Because I don't want your kid to have success and be miserable. You must find a vision with which you are emotionally connected. Without a compelling vision, you will discover there's no reason to go through the pain of change. Vision is the starting point of all high performance. I would like to argue that vision is the starting point of all performance. If you want your kid to achieve their goals, to perform at an okay level, your kid must have clarity. So what's that vision, that clarity? Clarity regarding who am I? What do I really want? And this clarity, gaining this clarity is really my number one secret, the most important piece that literally changed my life from struggling with eating disorder and drinking alcohol to where I'm today. Because when I was struggling here, I don't know why I was a college professor. And then as soon as I gained that clarity, this is not for me. Even though I did a good job, this is not for me. So I closed this chapter. I resigned from my job and I decided to pursue a bigger goal, which is what I do today. That is when I start to achieve all of those recognitions. Believe it or not, will you be surprised if I tell you every single one of these, the media mentioned, the success, the interview, the keynote, every single one of those accomplishments happened after I quit my job. That is the power of clarity. That is the power of alignment, because what I do today, it is perfectly aligned with who I am. This is where everything is in the flow state. Everything is almost effortless. This is what I help every single young person to achieve in my coaching program, so that you don't have to nag them. You don't have to push them anymore. They enter the highest level. They become generative. Every day, they're creating new business. They are generating new ideas. They're making a difference. They're leading. They're creating. They are becoming innovator. They're self-leading. No need to have anyone to push them. Nobody's like putting a knife on my shoulder or on my neck. Hey, you need to do this. No, I'm self-driven. I'm self-leading. This is the highest state. And this is exactly what I coach every single young person in my coaching program. Okay. So now you have my secret. You learned. I didn't hide anything. So if you are interested in having your kid work with me in my high touch one-on-one coaching program, just let me know in the comment section. And I'd love to have a chat with you. There's also a link in the description. And that allows you to book complimentary clarity consultation with me. So in that consultation, we're going to look at where your kid is at right now, because every phase here has unique challenges and they need a different type of support. If your kid is already at proactive and leading stage, they just need something extra to get them to the next level. And I'm going to coach your kid very differently than a kid who is reactive but stabilizing. Solutions, they need different support system. So in that clarity consultation, we're going to gain clarity regarding where is your kid at right now and where do they want to be. So we're going to really look at that gap. Like, are we talking about 3-level gap or 2-level gap? And how can we close that gap? And I will give you the game plan. And if you are interested in working with me and in that clarity consultation, I will tell you more about my coaching program, the details, how I support every single person, one-on-one, high level, high touch. It is not just here is an online video, go watch, because I know that doesn't work. Information does not lead to transformation. Definitely check out this video. I shared with you my 4I framework in order to have mastery, success, and excellence that goes beyond the information level. Okay. And so if you would love to have me support your kid, I will tell you more about coaching program. If you are not interested after the clarity consultation, you can just keep the game plan yours. And please also remember to download. Oh, this one doesn't really have a implementation guide, but many of my videos have an implementation guide, but this one doesn't. I already share everything with you. So check out this video here, or here has my 4I mastery framework. And thank you so much for another great video. Follow for more. See ya.